All right. Thanks again, everybody, for being here at 9 or 9:02-ish. This is fantastic. I would ask everybody, please turn your cameras on during the class portion, which is now, and continue throughout. We're going to do a lot of interacting in breakout rooms, etc. And I need to make sure that everyone is at least on screen and paying as much attention as you can. My name is Carrie McGee. I have been selling real estate since 2004. I've been with Keller Williams since 2017, and the only reason I did not join Keller Williams until 2017 is because they did not exist in the Tri-Cities before that. Otherwise, I would have joined immediately. Okay, we are going to talk about Ignite prospecting. And here's the deal with prospecting, guys. You have to do it. And sometimes it would be lovely to, Rick does not have a camera. Okay, Rick, that's fine. Sometimes it would be lovely to do this job and just deal with people and not have to do kind of the meat and potatoes part of the job, which is prospecting. Because what's fun for some of us is the paperwork or meeting with clients, and the actively going out and getting clients can sometimes be a drag because it is a never-ending proposition. Think of something else in our lives. What do we do that we have to do over and over again? Like, we don't just do, it's not just one and done. Can anybody name something?
Brushing our teeth.
Exactly. What else?
Laundry.
Exactly.
The worst
What
one
else?
of them all, the dishes.
Yes, right? Because you're like, oh my gosh, they're nice and they're clean. Oh wait, they're dirty again, right? And eating too, right? Like, you can't just eat one meal at the beginning of the day and then you're like good to go for 24, 48. Nope, you got to keep going, right? So that's so frustrating. And that's what prospecting is, though. Prospecting has to continuously be done so that you have a steady stream of clients so that you can continuously get new business and make money. After this session, you will be able to describe prospecting and how it contributes to lead generation efforts. You'll be able to explain the different prospecting methods. You will be able to develop your own prospecting plan. Any questions before we get started on the meat of this? Okay, awesome, fantastic. All right, I'm going to attempt to do a screen share. So hang on a minute. Karen, Sherry, Olivia, Eduardo, and Kimberly, would you please turn on your cameras as soon as you are able to do so? Thanks so much. All righty. Okie dokie. Here we are. Ta-da! Ignite, skills to spark a great career. Number 1, prospecting. That is, if you are looking for that, then you are in the right place. If you are looking for something else, then you're not in the right place. Okay, we are going to, the first part in our thing is connect prospecting to lead generation. I am 52 years old. I cannot read this slide. I cannot make it bigger on my screen. So if you have a really good vision, then by all means, memorize this and do everything you need to. I'm sorry, but I am not going to be able to help you with this particular slide. Everything else I've got. Hold on. Okay. We're supposed to review the flow of the lead generation model, emphasize that prospecting and marketing are your lead generation efforts that bring leads and contacts into their database. Lead generation, whether it's prospecting or marketing, should never be a practice that an agent stops. Without leads and contacts, they won't have the possibility for any closed transactions. And without a closed transaction, you cannot get paid, right? Which is what we talked about earlier. It's also kind of the difference between subsisting on just snacks as opposed to having actual meals that you create, right? You can always go out, especially in this market, we can find a buyer anywhere. Buyers are hanging from the trees pretty much, and you can just go to the buyer tree and pluck one down and say, all right, let's go find you a house. And that would be like a snack. But creating meals for yourself in terms of having a well-rounded bank account, that comes from prospecting. Okay, so lead generation is taking a message and a method to drive that message to a desired audience. We call this the 2 N's. The message needs to match your market, and it needs to make an offer for immediate response. It should match your market by tailoring the intended message to the sentiments and market conditions of the target group in the area in which you operate. The message should have a call to action that should be direct. Example, call me now, or indirect, look at my website for more information. There are 2 primary methods for getting your message out to your target group: prospecting and marketing. This session will really only cover prospecting, and there will be a marketing ignite that comes up later that you can attend. Lead generation methods should be prospecting based and marketing enhanced. Can anyone explain what they think that means?
I would say prospecting is more the proactive one-to-one activities that you take, phone calls, notes, events, those types of, well, not so much events, but marketing, I guess the way I see it is more one-to-many. It's kind of Air Force versus Army, and they should work in tandem.
That's excellent. That's exactly right. Anybody else? Okay, perfect. Why do you think it's better to be prospecting based and marketing enhanced as opposed to the other way around?
So you aren't wasting time and money.
Right. Anybody else with some thoughts on that?
I feel like prospecting is more of a solid foundation, and you can predict with your prospecting, like all of your numbers for the year can be based off of prospecting. With marketing, it's not as well. Catherine might disagree, but I feel like it's not an exact science.
I think
That's absolutely true.
I think prospecting gives the idea that you're looking for somebody, that you're looking for something, you're looking for somebody that's actually trying to achieve something, trying to, let's say if we're looking for somebody that's looking to sell their home, okay, then we're looking for somebody that actually wants to sell their home. Marketing is just throwing it out there and hoping you catch somebody that is thinking about, well, maybe I can, I'll give it a try or something like that,
Absolutely. No, that's perfect. And Nick said it well at the beginning too, where prospecting is more one-to-one and marketing is more one-to-many. When there's so many different ways to, a website is a good example of a marketing item, right? Because you don't know if anybody's ever going to look at your website, but if they do, it's out there and they can access it and then reach out to you for more. That's not a specific task that I'm doing, which is what prospecting is. Okay. All right, turn to page 4 in your guide, please. There's a variety of prospecting methods to share your message. Ask participants if they tried any of the methods to share their experience with the group. Okay, so hold on a second. We're going past that. So here are your prospecting methods. Has anyone tried any or all of these? Okay. Can anybody talk about their favorite one to do?
I've enjoyed knocking on doors and just meeting people. It's been a lot of fun for those who I have communicated with, and just building those relationships and then being able to send notes to them and chat with them. That's been a lot of fun, just getting to know people.
Excellent. Excellent. Hey, did you have any problems with that during COVID, or have they been receptive to opening the door for you?
They've been, so I've only done it once, and they've been super, well, the ones that both. So some didn't answer. Actually, I've done it a couple of times. Some didn't answer, and then others were very welcoming to let me in their homes. And so it's been probably 50-50, but those who did welcome me in their homes, we had great conversations, and the follow-ups have been really great in just building those relationships. So I've really enjoyed it.
Good, Karina, that's fantastic. Who else?
Before we were shut down, I really enjoyed the open houses. I can't say I had a whole bunch of follow-up because they were slow, and I think people felt a little uncomfortable because of COVID as well. But still, it was really awesome just to meet the people, talk with them, get comfortable introducing and asking the questions. And I'm so glad we get to do them again. So, because I want to get back to that. It worked really well.
No, I'm 100% with you. I'm really excited about that
Yes.
aspect of the business opening up again.
Me too.
Who else?
I
Well, one
guess
thing- oh.
sorry, that was like last minute jump in. I would put it under, I guess, the category of networking events, but it's just been being able to go out and have some conversations with people. And it's just amazing how, I feel like these days people are talking about real estate so much that it kind of, you don't even have to bring it up. You just happen to go, oh, well, I do real estate. And then it's like, boom, nice.
Right.
So.
Absolutely. Fantastic. Well, I think that one thing that who here, did anybody attend family reunion, virtual family reunion? If you were there and listened to what Gary has said time and time again, he said it last week and then he's always said it, real estate is a belly to belly, face to face business, right? When you get right up next to the person and talk about, engage them in conversations about real estate, that is prospecting. And those methods, I mean, Karina really got excited about talking to people, getting invited into their home, creating that rapport with them. Same for the rest of you with the open houses and the networking. That kind of face-to-face conversation with people in open houses, etc. That's what prospecting is. And it's funny because sometimes you'll hear people go, oh God, prospecting, or oh, I have to prospect. It's talking to people. And if you don't like to talk to people and you're in real estate, then you're in the wrong business. So just keep that in mind, guys. It's not anything scary. It's a conversation, which if you're anything like me, you've been having conversations since you were 4. And you tried to tell your mother to, not drag you all over the town running errands. Okay. All right. So the next section is, how do you think it's best to approach prospecting? Do you think it's best to do a whole bunch of things at once or focus on one thing at a time?
I think the latter. I think it's focus on one thing at a time personally, and iterate. Make sure that's the thing that is going to give you the best, response and or return. But so I'm not against trying multiple things. I just think trying multiple things all at once is different.
Right. Well, your focus can be very scattered when you do it that way. I know for sure. One thing I would recommend for, especially if you're just starting out, yes, you should do things one at a time, but make sure to have tried everything at least once. For example, don't just go, oh my God, I can't imagine being in an open house. That sounds awful. Talking to people, complete strangers all day. I don't know. I don't want to do that. Try it. You have no idea how you're going to respond to any given prospecting activity until you're actually in the middle of it, right? You might say, oh my gosh, I am a phone call person. I am only going to talk to people on the phone. That will be my prospecting method. And that's fantastic if that's your prospecting method. But try the others as well, because nobody gets everywhere in this business by doing just one thing. We have always a couple of lead sources that bring us the business that we need to have. It's very rare if you just have one thing that brings you the kind of success that you need / want to have. Okay. All right. Any questions on any of these things before we go on?
Carrie, I don't think that I will ever call for sale by owner or expired.
Okay.
It's just, I feel like there's already so many people doing it, and I feel so kind of sleazy doing it, just because I know friends that have done for sale by owner, and they're like, Lexi, people won't stop calling me, all these agents, even after I tell them no. Is that bad to just mentally cross something out like that?
It's not bad. I would think though, it might be, especially for someone like you, Lexi, because you are a long-term agent in the sense of you don't just see any given sale as one and done. I know how you are. You create relationships with your clients, and then you're in it for the long haul with them. If they have real estate needs in 5 years, 10 years, 15 years, you're still going to be with them. And you're a very consistent business practicer. You do things consistently over and over. And yes, those FSBO people who are calling and they're like, oh my gosh, if you need to find an agent, put your house up on the market by yourself, because then every agent will call you. They're not going to call again. The vast majority of those agents are going to call once, not get the appointment, and then not call again. Whereas you, especially Lexi, can be the long-term consistent, call the first day, 2 days later, offer to do something else. 3 days after that, do something else. And so I would suggest go ahead, and your first year in real estate, you should at least try everything once. So I would suggest you call a FSBO and an expired just once at least. Get a program together, find something. There's 1,000 different ways. There's MREA that tells us what to do. And my MREA is back there, which is why I'm gesturing. MREA tells you what to do, and at least try it just to see, so that later on, if I talk to you in 3 years, I can be like, hey, Lexi, what's going on with your FSBOs? And you're like, I tried it once, McGee. I'm never doing it again. But at least, because you don't know what you don't know.
Can I tell a story?
Yes, I'd love that.
I believe that friends don't let friends sell for sale by owner. And here's what just happened to me. Young guy that I know, good friend, he was determined to sell for sale by owner. And he was going to sell his house between 419 and 430. Because of the job transfer, he had to list it with me reluctantly. And I sold it for 505.
Oh, fantastic.
So he is convinced now that people need to have, maybe there is something to do with real estate agents. Maybe people really do need real estate agents.
Mm-hmm.
So, and I have sold for sale by owner, and I've done really well. And I've also lost a lot of money because I sold for sale by owner. So I know that I am providing a service for people and earn my commission. So I'm not afraid to approach for sale by owners. It's the follow-up that's probably the most difficult part for me.
I think that's pretty common.
I met with an agent in the Spokane area this weekend, and he had said that on average that for sale by owners are it's like 18% less, sell it for 18% less than what its actual worth is. So still is a ton of value.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, especially, I mean, at any given time, you are going to receive the highest value when the most people know about your product. Period. End of story. Which is why I always hesitate to do off-market listings, because I feel like my seller is going to get their best value by exposing it to the widest range of people possible. And so that's absolutely right. And thank you guys for bringing up those points, because they may think it's a mindset thing, right? Like all of life, they're thinking they're going to save money, but they're stepping over dollars to pick up dimes. And so honestly, I would encourage you, Lexi, find a good script and plan for sale by owners and expireds and try it. And if it doesn't work, then it doesn't work, but at least you've tried it.
All right.
Awesome. Thanks, you guys. All right, so we're going to do a deep dive into different prospecting activities listed on the screen. Let me go to the next page. Oops. Did that one. Okay. All right. Door knocking, agent-to-agent referrals, open houses, and social media. So we are going to go next. Has anybody, we talked about who's done door knocking, we've talked about open houses. Has anybody used social media or agent-to-agent referrals as a method of prospecting? Awesome. Does anybody want to talk about their experiences with that?
I'm in Walla Walla and I have just received an agent referral from someone from Tri-Cities. So that was good.
That's awesome. Yeah, for sure. And that was on the Facebook page, right?
Yeah,
I mean,
exactly. Yeah,
said
and, I feel like if you service like maybe a different area than most of people in your market center, just reaching out and letting people know that you're available.
100%. I think that's really critical. One thing I know, I, for example, have had tons of agent-to-agent referrals in my career because I have been involved in other things that have taken me all over the country. Other conferences, of course, Family Reunion and Mega Camp, but then other conferences with other agencies and different things, which absolutely helps you to have somebody in your back pocket for Denver, Colorado, or Tallahassee, Florida. And what's really critical for all of us, at least in the Tri-Cities, we can find out where people, there's a map, and I can find it for you, where it tells you where people from here generally move to and from. And when you find out where people move to and from, then you go ahead and focus your efforts on finding a referral partner in those markets so that you can constantly be a source of business for one another. And it's a like census.org or something. So I'll find that.
And how would you recommend reaching out to those people, Carrie? Or for example, here in the Charlotte market, we have a lot of people moving down here from New York just to get out of the city. But how would I get into their minds? What would you recommend?
Well, I mean, go ahead first and find out who, and again, we can go back to Zillow and look at reviews there for sure. And look at reviews of different agents. You can check out the Keller, the on command where it's got the amounts of referrals, or there's agents to refer to from there. I always take a 3-step approach for agents. First of all, I will just find some names, right? Like I go to any given source and I find some names. Like for us, we would go to command. And then I take 5 names and then I go to Zillow and I look at their reviews. Then I go to Facebook and I see if they're active on social media in that sense. If they're not on Facebook, are they on Instagram or wherever? And then after, usually that narrows down a couple people because they may have a review that's not good, or they may have said something on social media that I'm like, I'm not sure if that's a really good idea that somebody would say that. And so then that just narrows down a couple. And when I get to the last 2 or 3, I pick up the phone and I call them. And I say, my name is Carrie McGee, and I might have a referral for your area. Can you tell me a little bit about you? And every single agent on the planet will be excited to talk to you about referral possibilities.
Yeah, thank you. I'm sure that you're seeing a lot of that in Tri-Cities, of people moving to or from Seattle over to Tri-Cities.
Yes, it's happening a lot. I actually just I had a client this weekend from Burien, and then earlier last week I had some people who are moving from Everett. They're just swarming in at this point, so making an already tight market tighter. Yay. Okay.
I have a question about
fantastic.
that.
Thank you. Yes.
So I sent a referral to someone in Bend, Oregon, and we got everything set up, but then they never contacted my client. So can I pull that referral back and then resend it to someone else, even though we signed an agreement?
I believe you can, but I think that's going to be a Ron/Erica question
Okay,
to be sure of, but
okay,
that's absolutely what I would do.
okay. Yeah, I was kind of surprised, saddened by that, but
Well, I reached out, I hooked up a friend in El Paso with an agent that, I mean, I was super excited. I did my whole thing where I looked at her reviews and I talked with her on the phone, and she really seemed to be my gal, and I was so excited. And she talked to my client once, hooked her up with a lender. The lender got her to where she needed to be, but the agent completely ghosted her. And about 6 months later, my friend said, "Hey, Carrie, this is what happened. It's okay though, because I'm in an apartment for another year." And I'm like, "It's not okay. I'm sorry." So, but I mean, I've also had people, I referred them and everything's all going great. And then they found a for sale by owner and they bought it without using the agent that I referred them to. Right. And I'm like, so, but life happens, right? Awesome. Okay. So turn to page 5 in your guide. And we're going to talk about door knocking and its benefits. Karina, do you want to speak to any of that?
sure. So here's some things that I've found that hopefully I don't sound offensive, but you have to be careful what you wear and probably don't take a notebook in hand. You want to maybe not look like you're a certain religious denomination because they might not answer. Another thing be very careful of is the rings, because whatever you say will be used against you.
Perfect. Yep.
That mistake, I think, especially when you can see lots of dog hair in their house and you make that comment, but it was my neighbor. So I said, "Wow, look at all the dog hair. I told her she should get the Roomba."
Oh, God.
Whoops.
Karina. Yikes.
But some people don't answer, and then that's okay, but other people do, and I've brought them value. I have always had something to give them. And so I've used different types of things to bring them value. It was either like a picture package that I wanted to offer my neighbors because I have a photographer, or it was something that we just recently sold. And so I wanted to offer a current market analysis on their home, and just getting into people's houses and finding out about them. And then when you see, you know, pictures on the wall of their families, talking about the families and just building that relationship with them has been so much fun. And so I went with my husband. And so when there's two of us, it's, you know, funner. I don't know if funner is a word, but building that relationship and just really getting to know the people and just adding value to their lives, and then offering the current market and analysis as a secondary has just been super beneficial. And just like I said, building that relationship has just been a lot of fun, and getting to know people as opposed to trying to get something from them, but just getting something to them and adding value to their lives has seemed to be beneficial to us. And then that follow-up, sending a thank you card and then calling them and going back to thanking them, and then talking about what you remembered, you know, asking about their family and just remembering what you talked about has been beneficial.
Right. Perfect. That's super, super good. And what's great too, and what's critical to any method of prospecting is the follow-up. You can knock on doors all day long, but if that's all you do and you don't follow up with an additional visit the next month, or a call, or a note, or some sort of follow-up, then you've really wasted your effort. It has to be consistent. Whatever you do prospecting wise, it needs to be a consistent effort. And so I think Karina just showed that with her calls, or excuse me, with her notes that she's done and the follow-up that she's done. That's what makes it important. and makes it work. Thank you so much for that. It's funny, my son liked a particular political candidate last year, and he went door knocking, and my son is not chatty like his mother. He is not an extrovert, but it meant a lot to him to have this political person get the job. And so, I mean, he went door knocking with the other people from like the, club that he was in. And I was like, oh my gosh, tell me about the door knocking. Are you going to follow up? But he's like, no, Mom, it's not like that. But anyway, it's fascinating to think about how that's still it's very old fashioned for all of our high tech world. It's a super old fashioned way of getting stuff done, but it works. That's why we do it still.
I mean, I think that's.
Does anybody? Yeah, go ahead, Nick.
Oh, I was just going to echo you. I mean, I think that's why it works. I think that's why handwritten notes work. I think that's why, direct mail is like making a comeback because, we've all got filters on our email and, we can block somebody pretty quick on social media. Not to say that, again, all those things aren't important. I just think that's exactly why some of these things that are quote unquote old school work,
Right.
better now maybe than they ever did. So.
I think you're right. Well, because we all want a connection, right? That's the whole point. So fantastic. Especially, I think what we will see, especially in this upcoming year, as we get out of COVID and get more back to normal, even if it is a little bit different than what we're used to. I think we're going to see people even more hungry for that kind of connection and that kind of interaction with another human being who is not already in their house and that they've looked at every day for, weeks at a time. So fantastic. Great, you guys. Thanks so much. What would be your reason behind door knocking? Like, why would you go door knocking? Like, what would you provide? Karina talked about providing, value with items of value or whatever. Like, what other reasons could you use to door knock?
I mean, in the beginning, you had talked about, well, if you don't even like talking to people, you're kind of in the wrong industry. So, I mean, it's an easy way to just get to know your neighbors. Like, I'm new to the neighborhood. So even if it's not that, it's like, hey, here's, in the summer, we love the barbecue. We like to swim in the pool. Come on over. Just get to know that sense of community.
Perfect. Exactly, Doug. What else?
Maybe if you've already had a listing in that neighborhood where there were buyers who missed out, you could door knock and just let the neighbors know, if they've been thinking about selling, there's people that just missed out in their neighborhood.
That's perfect. That's absolutely right. Anybody else? Yeah.
We kind of talked about the marriage or relationship between marketing and prospecting before. I mean, so Brian Mulroy, who's on the phone, recommended a book to me the other day, 7 Levels of Communication. And it talks about, some things are like on a spectrum. If you view it on a spectrum and one side of the spectrum is influence, one side of the spectrum is, being informative. I mean, door knocking is next to events and things where you get belly to belly. I mean, it couldn't be more effective as an influence, a way to influence. Whereas, and then maybe you don't have all the information from these folks, and it gives you an opportunity to get their phone number or get their email, and then you start with drip campaigns and doing follow up via marketing. But I just don't think there's any more intimate setting than someone's living room. Like what Karina said. So what better way to kind of influence somebody and do something that others maybe aren't doing? But I'd say to answer your question, the reason is I think it's, again, probably the best way to build or create influence rather than just inform someone.
Right. Excellent. Well, it's a conversation, right? Where marketing is more you just talking and there's nothing coming back to you. Whereas prospecting is, here is some information. Let's talk about this information. Anything else from anyone?
My goal, since I just moved into this neighborhood about a year ago, and thankfully the local neighborhood realtor moved out. So perfect timing that I could now become our local neighborhood expert. And so that's my whole goal for my neighborhood is, and it's just roughly about 2 cul-de-sacs, so it's kind of a perfect size.
Mhm.
So I want to become the local neighborhood expert on pretty much all things real estate or buying, investing, whatnot. And so I did that picture package for everybody for Christmas, and now I'm going to deliver, I think maybe cookies or cupcakes for St. Patrick's Day. Since we were kind of, shut down, I wanted to kind of be careful going around. But so I'm going to, any holiday, just go around and deliver some value. And that's my excuse to get out and get my face out to each neighbor. And now we have, in the estates, we have a Facebook group. And so I'm going to go around and get everybody's Facebook, either their names or emails or whatever, and try and just build that Facebook group. And just still like we were talking about building that value, but I'm going to go take cookies and maybe like those little milk cartons for St. Patrick's Day. And that's my excuse to get out again and just kind of continually remind them that I am their neighborhood real estate expert. And maybe not for them, because I don't want to lose any of my neighbors, but for others, right? So that they could always refer me to their friends and family or whatnot. So that's going to be my plan this year, is to just continually remind them all that I am their realtor of choice, and just continually provide that value any holiday that I can, because now Easter's coming, which is another great
opportunity
for, so I have that that photographer that will take photos for their families at a really great price. So whatever I can do to just remind them that I'm their pick for a real estate agent.
Excellent. Are you farming that neighborhood, Karina?
I am. Yep.
Okay. Excellent. And farming is one of the door knocking is a critical piece of any farming effort. I think in the 70s, well, sorry, you're not, some of you weren't even born in the 70s, so I'll stop. But when you were in my youth, there used to be a lot of just postcards or door hangers or whatever. And I don't remember anybody talking with anyone, like coming to our door and talking with us. But I do remember us getting postcards, and I remember us getting like to-do lists or whatever, like a notepad by our neighborhood realtor. Her name was Marilyn. And when my parents got divorced and we sold our house, they listed with Marilyn because everybody in our neighborhood listed with Marilyn. And so that is critical, because everything in if you farm an area and you put those two pieces together of mailing and the door knocking, that's when, I mean, every time you touch them, like MREA says, right? 33 touch, 36 touch, whatever your method is, a phone call, or excuse me, a door knock is a touch. And so that's a critical piece of the prospecting. So thank you, Karina, for sharing that. That's awesome. One way to, yeah, Lexi.
I just thought it was a really good idea. This was from an agent at Coldwell Banker. She did this in our neighborhood a couple years ago. She did a food drive for the food bank, I think it was. And she went around to every house, and there was a big Coldwell Banker plastic bag and her business card, and just saying, next Thursday, I'm going to come pick up food. Just leave it on your front porch. So she had a bunch of people leave food out, and then she was able to, blast it on social media and thank the neighborhood. Like it was really smart, I thought. And
yeah,
a good sort of thing to give back.
Absolutely. That's another great example of a way to capitalize on that. One thing too, I read about this a long time ago, and I think it's genius. When you have a listing, and even if you don't have a listing, but you just are getting started in the business, but in your somebody in your brokerage has a listing, go ahead and you're going to circle prospect around that listing, which is door knock around that listing, right? The 20 houses around it, 50 houses around it, whatever your feet can stand. You're going to go ahead and knock on the door and say, hey, my name is Carrie McGee. I'm with Keller Williams. Wanted to let you know 123 Elm Street down the street just went under contract. Yes, gosh, it did. That was fast. Yes, it was. Our market is like that. I can't tell you right now what it sold for, but when it is final, would you like me to let you know what it sold for? And that's one way of continuously. So then you get their contact info, or you come back if they're not going to give it to you, and you keep a note of who you need to tell. And the minute that thing is final, before it distributes out to Zillow and everywhere else, you call them and say, hey, this is Carrie McGee. As I told you when we spoke 3 weeks ago, I would let you know the minute that this house closed what it sold for. It sold for $525. What do you think about that? Right? And that gets conversations going. That creates, again, what Karina was talking about, being the knowledge broker for your area. Everybody's like, wow, Carrie knows everything about everything that happens on this street or in my neighborhood, etc. So that's another piece that you can add to your door knocking, where you're providing value and then creating also that way to get more information from them. Like they will give you their phone number because you don't necessarily want to always be schlepping out to knock on the door. Okay. Awesome. What's critical too with door knocking is, like with everything, the consistency. You need to do it like Karina's talking about every month. She's got a St. Patrick's Day thing planned. She's got an Easter thing planned. She's got to have a May thing planned, a June thing, July, et cetera, et cetera. Don't just, it's not a one and done proposition. You need to door knock repeatedly if that's your method of prospecting that you choose. Okay. Does anybody have any limiting beliefs around door knocking?
I think it's just ideas, you know, on, you know, to your point, doing it once is fine. Introduce, I'm your neighbor, or whatever the case might be, or I have a listing, you know, the reasons behind the continued, you know, follow-up would be my limiting belief personally. It's like coming up with something creative and a real reason to continue, you know, versus one and done. And you mentioned that. So this, I mean, to me, this is helpful for my limiting belief, just getting ideas that you guys are bringing up.
Excellent. Anybody else have thoughts around that?
For me, it would be, I mean, it's it's just because of the time we're in because of COVID, but just, I've had, you know, gone up to shake someone's hand and they're like, oh, no, I didn't know. And so I'm like, that's kind of an awkward situation. Like, oh, I'm so sorry. Like, I didn't mean to make you feel uncomfortable or anything. So I know it's like a super small portion of door knocking, but that first, like, what are you doing on my porch? Like, we're in a pandemic. So yeah, just kind of like, I mean, it's like scripting to that, being like, oh, no worries. I'm not here to make you feel uncomfortable. If you want me to leave, I totally can. But, you know, so just kind of different ways to go around that certain portion of the door knocking experience.
Right. No, that makes sense. And I mean, obviously you never want people to feel uncomfortable. And so I think it is smart to wait a bit on the door knocking until the summer, when we're going to all feel a little bit more comfortable, because rates are going to decrease, and more people will be comfortable moving around and interacting as we once did. Outside of that specific though, instance, does anybody have like, oh gosh, like Lexi had a kind of visceral reaction to calling a for sale by owner or an expired? Does anybody have that kind of visceral negative reaction around door knocking? All right, hearing nothing, I'm sure then you'll all be door knocking the second that it's safe to do so. We'll just be this army of door knockers, and everyone will be like, geez Louise, I can't get away from the Keller Williams door knockers. I'll be like, fantastic. Okay. Also with door knocking, it's important to know your script for door knocking, right? Like Nick said, we've got to know what we're doing. Why are we there in front? Like, you're not just going to go, hey, I think I'll knock on some doors today. There has to be a reason. You're providing value of some kind, either with an actual item of value or knowledge around, hey, this house around the corner just got listed. They listed for $429. I'll let you know where it winds up. Or these 3 houses sold in the neighborhood in the last 6 weeks, which was the last time I came by to see you. Here's this information. So you've got to have information, and you've got to have your script ready for what you're going to say to them. Otherwise, sometimes people open the door and you're like, hi, right? And that is never good. All right, so next slide. Let's talk about agent to agent referrals. Catherine and I talked about that a little bit. Does anybody else have some ideas around agent to agent referrals?
I'm from New York City and living in Spokane now. So I always like to touch base on this because I feel like it really, you know, when I met with some great people, you know, obviously in Keller Williams, everybody shares their ideas. Nobody hides anything. And somebody told me referrals are unlimited and that doesn't matter where you are. And, you know, one of the first things, you know, I had talked to Nick, who's also on the phone here, about because he had been living in Atlanta, and you know, I think we both had the same thing where it was like, oh, like, you know, I don't really want to tell people this is what I'm doing now and this and that. After a week, I was just like, I just called and texted everybody. It was like, hey, this is what I'm doing now. Like, if you know anybody, like, I only have a service to offer, so I just feel like I'm not trying to get anything out of you. I'm trying to help you, and I have plenty of friends and family there that, you know, even if they told me to shove it, I wouldn't care. It would just be funny, you know? So I
Right.
just, you know, I really think you have something to offer. And I think that's like the number one thing that I try to believe in as much as possible is just, I'm trying to help you do something. I can help you find the right person to do it. Even if I'm not there, I can almost be there for you, even if it's not physically. Like I can be there, guide you through the process and help you find the right person. So I am definitely, you know, hoping that I get a call from somebody back home and, you know, I'd be able to elaborate more on that. But, you know, I did make it known like, hey, you know, I can help you even from afar. So.
Perfect. That's
Yeah.
excellent. That's absolutely excellent. Well, and what's critical there is the knowledge piece, right? Letting others know that this is something you're capable of. Other thoughts around that from anyone? Okay. There's a listserv, which you guys probably may not know what that is because it's an old school way of having a forum before there was Facebook and before there were other social media sites. You would have this group of people who would just all write into a server, and then the server spits out the emails to everybody who is signed up. And I belong to a listserv and have belonged to it consistently for 24 years now. And it's all around this particular author and her works. And sometimes we do group reads, sometimes we just talk about our lives in general. Everybody knows that I'm a real estate agent. And everybody from Seattle to, I've helped Seattle, I've helped New York, I've helped in Texas, I've helped in Michigan, I've helped in Minnesota. I have hooked up people from that listserv who know, like, and trust me because they've interacted with me for 24 years with agents in their areas, because obviously I can't help them. I'm only licensed in this state and most specifically good in this area. But that kind of relationship, right? You've spent all these years creating relationships and friendships with people. And just because you're not there, that doesn't mean you can't take advantage of the fact that you have the knowledge about who would be best to serve them in their area. And the fact that you get some money from that is a win-win. Also, for inbound referrals, does anybody have ideas about how to get inbound referrals to you from others?
I use social media, LinkedIn and Facebook, and you know, anytime I make a post, I always make sure I hashtag like Keller Williams, multiple ones. And I'll tell you, I've connected with, whether or not it's had a conversation, but all of a sudden I have 10 agents from Keller Williams in all parts of the country, and it's, you know, I didn't realize what was happening at first. I was just like, oh man, like just more people that are trying to be my accountant or something like that. But then you're like, wow,
Right.
like I'm connected now. I have somebody over on the East Coast. I have somebody over in California. And I know that it would be as simple as sending them a message and saying, hey, I might have something for you. And then, of course, you know, I think that's why they connected with me, and I like to hope so anyway. But yeah, so that's something I've done, and I see that I'm getting more and more connections with Keller agents via LinkedIn. Like I said, whether it's surface level at this moment, it's fine to me. But you know, I know that I don't have to think too much about it if I have to find somebody in another state or something like that.
Right. Perfect. Well, and as a prospecting method, like with the other things we were talking about, you need to be consistent. So you're consistently on social media, putting all your posts, hashtag Keller Williams, hashtag KW, hashtag whatever. And that is a consistent effort that is paying you back now with contacts and with other people that you're speaking with who you're able to connect, and vice versa. One thing that's important too, when you use agent to agent referrals as a prospecting model, is to be consistent in whatever your efforts are. For example, you can find, say again, like say you did that research and found out where most people from the Tri-Cities are moving to, and you found 5 agents because they're moving to Charlotte, they're moving to Seattle, they're moving to Tallahassee, they're moving to Buffalo, New York, and they're moving to Missoula, Montana. All right. So you find those 5 cities, you find an agent in those 5 cities, and you consistently keep up with your relationship there. You develop the relationship and you consistently manage it. So you grow it and you manage it and you maintain it. And that is, again, it's an effort that you have to have a system for, but then it does pay you well, both with inbound and the outbound referral system, and you can get a ton of money that way. Okay. Does anybody have any ideas for how to stay top of mind with referral agents, other agents?
Carrie, I was going through a midlife crisis last summer with my real estate career, and I got some designations while I was kind of pondering what to do next. And it turns out like At Home with Diversity has its own Facebook group. So within that Facebook group, people will say, hey, I have a client that's moving blah, blah, blah. Who in here is in that market? So it was kind of, I didn't expect that to possibly result in referrals. I haven't gotten one yet, but it's another place that you can do that.
Absolutely. And that's a perfect example of, that's part of that grow part of the model, is to consistently be looking for areas and arenas that you can dip your toe in to engage with other agents from other parts of the country. That's perfect. Thank you, Lexi.
There's actually
I have a friend.
one more.
Yeah.
My sister and my cousin, we all are all realtors in all different markets, and we started to do a weekly Zoom meeting, and it's just kind of fun, but it also like we end up with a ton of viewers, and it's fun, but also I think it's a good way to introduce people to a good agent in those markets.
Mm-hmm. I agree. That's really smart. Great job, you guys. Awesome. I know a friend, I have an agent who works in Los Angeles, and you know, LA is a pretty big market. So she has one particular portion of LA that she focuses on. And she calls me every year in January, I think it is. And she's called me every year in January for the last 3 years. And that's part of her consistent marketing, is the reminder that she is there. I mean, yeah, it's once a year, but I mean, how many times do I get referrals for LA? Not a ton. So, but again, with any consistent effort, you can make agent to agent referrals be a really great prospecting part of your business. Okay. Any other questions on that? Okay. The next thing I'm supposed to tell you to do is to go into Command and talk about how to send and receive referrals, broadcast referrals, and do the map search feature. I am not a huge command tech connector. We are going to kind of completely jump over this section as long as everyone is okay with it. If you are demanding that I go into command and show you things, I'm not sure how I will do that, but I can try. Okay.
I mean, if it helps, somebody led me through it the other day. I'm happy to show, but if it's pretty intuitive. So, I mean.
Okay. Well, and is everybody, I mean, not everybody on here is on command, because I know we have some people who haven't decided what brokerage to join, and some people aren't, you know, with Keller and connected in that way. But you're absolutely right. It is kind of intuitive. And I'm just only scared because I'm screen sharing this, but hang on one sec. Let me see if I can get there. Hang on. All right. What are you guys seeing? Are you seeing anything other than everybody? Okay, hang on. Okay. All right. Okay, I have no task to complete. Yay for me. Okay. Where there's referrals. So I have one pending invite. I have no pending referrals. Nothing is shown as received. Nothing is shown as sent. But I do have these people that want to be part of my referral network, so that if I do have something in St. Petersburg or Plano or Honolulu or Springfield, then I will think of them first. So that's one way you can do it. You can just kind of spam other people in the Keller network, hoping that they'll remember you when it comes time. I do think that you need to be more deliberate than that when you are growing your referral network. But for example, if I have a new referral, you click the new referral, and I can either select an agent. Are you Alexandra in this? Okay, maybe I'm going to do Brandon. Brandon's showing up. Okay, Brandon Marchand out of Spokane. The buyer, seller, tenant, or landlord. What's my referral fee? He's got a period of time to accept it or reject it. This is their price min max. If I've got a note about it, if I need to, I can either get the information from the database if they're already in command, or I can create a new contact for them, provide all the client info, and then send it off. Oops, I have to accept cookies. Then send it off right there. So it's not, you're right, it is super intuitive. And that is a wonderful place to keep them all in one spot, so that you can immediately refer to, like, oh, okay, I've got this one that's pending, etc. I have not always used, I don't actually use command for my CRM. So it's not as filled out and as robust as it could be for me personally. I do, though, keep track in another format of all the ins and outs and what's going where, etc. Right? But command does make it really nice and easy to send one off to somebody else in the KW network, etc. Okay, any questions on that? Okay, I'm supposed to demonstrate how to scan a QR code to add an agent to your database and allow time for participants to scan each other QR codes. But I think that's for real life interaction, because I'm not sure we can scan with the phone. So, but that is something to look into for if you go into your app and do some research on that. The next time we are all in a huge location, like for Make a Camp or Keller Williams in Orlando next year. What? We are going to Disney World. We are going to Disney World. When you're there, you can scan their code and then they're immediately going to be in your network. So that's a nice feature about that. Okay, next one is, let's go back over here. All right. What are you guys seeing? Are you still seeing the referral form?
Yep, it's still in command. Yep, there you go.
Okay. Okay, so next is open houses. Dun, 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 dun. Open houses have a great potential for attracting leads. Holding open houses will put you in the path of an opportunity to meet people, add to your database, and set appointments. We are supposed to find a partner or a small group directly around to work with, and I can make you all go into different teams. So that is something that we'll do at some point. Open houses are inexpensive and have a great return on investment. Agents can also start to build a reputation around their name in specific neighborhoods. It's important to take advantage of each phase before, during, and after an open house to promote your services to your database. Consider what marketing materials can be leveraged to enhance the prospecting activities involved in an open house. Go to page 7 of your participants guide. And we're going to review some things there. Hang on. Okay. So what would be an example of some before activities?
We talked about this a couple weeks ago. You should know, you should find out who else is having open houses in the neighborhood or in that vicinity, because chances are the people that come into the open house, that house won't be there forever. That won't be the one they want to make an offer on, but they are in the market. So you'll be able to say, hey, I know of a couple other houses. Why don't we go after my open house and drive around? When do you have an opening? So just like to do the research around where your open house is going to be, I would say, as a preparation.
That's really smart. Yes, for sure. Thank you, Lexi. What else is another, I mean, go ahead, guys, just read from the chart. Like, what are some things that you can do before, during, and after? What's an example?
Well, so I know, like, I'm a new agent. I haven't done open houses yet. But, like, how would I go about that? Because I know that's a big part of, like, prospecting and stuff. But, like, obviously I've heard agents like when you offer to hold their open house for them if they're too busy and they have other things. So, like, how would you go about that asking? Because I'm an individual agent. I'm not on a team, so.
Asking the other agent, how would you go about? Is that your question?
Like asking them if you can hold their open houses for them. Or
I've got some thoughts, but does anybody else have something for how they like to be asked or how they've seen success with that in the past?
I have another, sorry, I'm kind of monopolizing some conversation. We had, my dad had a house that we were sitting at every single weekend for almost a year that was up in this development that hardly anybody knew about. Every single weekend, my dad and I would take turns sitting that house. One agent the entire year contacted me and said, hey, Lexi, I would love to have an open house at your house. And I thought, yes, please. But I was surprised that not more agents called just to say, hey, can I do this? Because it was a welcome break and it let us, it pulled from a whole new marketing pool, that random agent with PRS having that open house.
Excellent. Right. Well, and basically what I've found works really well, Victoria, is to say, hi, I see that you just listed your house at 123 Main Street. Would you mind if I held an open house for you on that house this weekend? Or are you doing one on Saturday and I'll do one on Sunday or whatever? Almost every agent will be, unless that's part of their specific marketing plan around a house, would love to have you hold it open.
I just want to clarify on that. So
Yeah.
you're an agent calling up someone who has a listing, another agent, and offering to hold their open house for them. Is that right?
Yeah, correct.
And they don't have any, they typically don't have any issue with that, or?
From
I'm just trying to think.
Yeah, well, some people hate open houses, number
Okay.
one. Some people, like Lexi was talking about, they are sick and tired of it because it's every single week and they haven't had, for whatever reason, they haven't had a lot of activity on that property or in that neighborhood. And so it can absolutely be a welcome thing if you are the one who holds it open instead.
Gotcha. Cool.
Yeah, when open houses were still going, I just looked up the open houses, like say on a Tuesday, what was coming up that weekend in Paragon. And I just called the agent and said, like if they were running it all weekend, I would say, can I do Saturday for you? And I never got a no. Nobody said no. They were like, of course. They said, you can have Saturday and Sunday if you'd like it. And they would provide me with the whatever paperwork they wanted there. And I had just joined Tri-Town, so I had just gotten my signs. So I would decide where I was going to put my signs to get the best traffic to the open house. And yeah, just reaching out to the agents. If they really want to do it, or if they already have somebody set up, they'll just let you know. But like I said, I never got a no. Everything was a yes, please.
Right. And generally, and it should probably start to happen again. I know that when they were allowed, people would say on Facebook, on the KWTC fan page, they would say, hey, I've got, I have an opening or I need an open house held on this date at this time.
Yeah.
Or people would say, I'm looking to, shadow an agent. I'm looking to hold a couple houses open. What do you have for me? And I mean, you're absolutely right. There's always way more people that need a house held open than there are
The
people
biggest
that
challenge
wanna open it.
that's like July when everything was moving so fast, was I would set up with an agent on Wednesday and then they would call me on Thursday and say, well, we're under contract. Do you still want to do the open house as like a backup offer? And, you're taking a chance, it's your call at that point. I did a couple that way and I turned a couple down. So.
Right. Well, and I mean, here's the point for open houses, right? It is to expand your buyer pool. It is not to sell the house. And let me say it one more time. It is not to sell the house. Let me say it one more time. It is not to sell the house you are holding open. It is for you to gain more buyer contacts and possibly seller contacts as well, because sometimes sellers in the neighborhood will kind of go by the open house to check out what your behavior is and whether you're the right agent for them because they're thinking of listing. So most of the time, probably 9 times out of 10, it's other buyers, but every so often you'll get a listing lead from it as well.
Right.
And so it is sometimes worthwhile to go ahead and hold an open for a backup offer in that situation, because again, it's not that house that you're holding open.
Right.
Or that
and
you're
I
trying
did
to
do
sell.
it twice and it was still awesome. I mean, you still get great conversations. And like I said, I didn't get any major prospects from it, but things were moving so quickly. I was brand new, but it was great for me to just get used to my scripts. What works, what doesn't. Oh, maybe I should have said this differently. And then trying it next time and go, aha, it did work this time.
Exactly. Well, and again, it's anything with repetition, you get better at it. Practice.
Yeah.
And so anytime you're interacting with the general public in an open house setting, you're going to be better for the next time you're interacting with the general public in an open house setting. Excellent.
I
Thank you,
enjoyed it
Kimberly,
way
so
more
much.
than I thought I would.
Well, and again, that's why I'm suggesting everybody try something at least once, because you may surprise yourself by finding that you like it much more than you thought, or conversely, not like it.
Right.
I came from a retail background and I thought I would love open houses, and I don't like them at all. And And so, but one thing that I am fantastic at, which no longer, unfortunately, is a method of obtaining leads. In the old days, there used to be sign calls. People would call on the sign. That doesn't happen very often anymore.
Right.
But when it did, I was Johnny on the spot. I had my phone script down, and everybody was like, "Sure, I'll look at it," and it was great. So you've got to find what works for you, and you're not going to know what works for you until you try everything. Okay. Let's talk some more about open houses. How can you leverage promotional materials like flyers, signage, and social media to enhance your prospecting? One thing you can do for the door knocking piece of it around your open house, I'm going to have an open house on Saturday. So on Thursday, I go ahead and I take a flyer around to the surrounding houses, or a door hanger with the information about the open house to the surrounding houses. I knock on the door, I hang it on the door knob if they're not there, and that's information about the house. So that's using that as additional collateral. You can also go on social media and you're like, hey, I'm here live at my open house at 123 Main Street, and take a look at this, that, and the other. And that's how you can leverage that as well. Does anyone else have other ideas about leverage for those? Okay, awesome. So the first step is preparing for the open house, and that's setting you up for success. Review the first prepare page in the participant guide, which is on page 8. So Monday, select your open house location and time, or volunteer to host an open house for someone in your market center. And again, this is funny because this is in a normal market situation. In many cases, this does not apply right now because things are moving so quickly. And if something is available on Monday, it will likely not be available by Saturday. Monday, select your open house. Tuesday, post online, generate call list, and call 25 neighbors, but do not violate the do not call list. Let me say it again. Do not violate the do not call registry. If you are not familiar with the do not call registry, find out more about it. And always, always, always check to make sure anyone that you are about to call is not on that list. Then you can feel free to call them. If they are on that list, do not call them. Period. End of story. Because saying to somebody, hey, but my Ignite instructor was telling me that this is a great way to get leads, that does not exempt you from the massive fine that you will have to pay. Okay. Post online, generate call list, and call 25 neighbors. What would be easier than calling and scrubbing that list against that database of the do not call is knocking on the door for 25 surrounding neighbors. Post online, install the K2B mobile search app on your phone, put a sign in the yard, coming soon, open house Saturday. That's that sign that they're talking about. Thursday, again, post online, invite the database, your personal database, even if they've never said anything about living at anywhere close to 123 Main Street, you want to make sure that they know that that house is available and you'll be there for them to talk about anything in particular that they want to talk about, whether it be that house or anything else. Return yard sign calls if there have been any. Email property-based internet leads. Friday, post online, prepare market stats and comps, print and digital, print open house flyers, and Saturday, post online, place signs, door knock the neighborhood, use script when door is answered, leave flyer if unanswered. That's a very, very busy week. Okay. Does anybody have any questions about any of those things? Okay. Next step is prospecting. You're proactively promoting your open house, you're building rapport with guests and establishing relationships, and you're qualifying leads by asking probing questions. All right. I am now supposed to get you to go to separate rooms where you will talk about open-ended questions. You're going to produce a list of probing questions, open-ended questions that require more than a yes or no answer that you can use to qualify leads at an open house. You can use your space in the participant guide to write your ideas. And then I'm going to go ahead and bring you all together. So let me see if this works the way I was told it will work. Cross fingers. Hang on, I'm going to stop sharing. And then, okay, the system is automatically going to put you in various rooms. And then you're going to talk for a couple minutes. You're going to create a list with your partner or partners of open-ended questions. And then I will click another button and you'll all come back to being in this one room. Okay. So hang on. All right. All right. So there should be about 4 of you in each room. And I'm going to give you about 5 minutes. Does that sound like a good time frame? Okay, and here we go. Excellent.
A few moments later.
We'll wait a couple minutes too for everyone to log back on. But okay, so who wants to tell me about some of the open-ended questions that were created / thought up, proposed?
Yeah.
Go ahead.
All right, I'll go real quick. Heidi had a great one. I was doing new construction open house this weekend, and she has suggested when they come in, have you been able to sit down with an agent to go over what the buying process looks like? And that getting a conversation into actually what that buying process looks like, because most of them were like, oh, this is my first open house, or oh no, I don't have an agent. And it actually sets the appointment right there. So
okay. Excellent. How can we phrase that where, because that seemed to me more of a yes, no. So how could we phrase that where it's more open-ended? How about how many opportunities have you had? That requires a number. And if they'll say no, none, then you can say, take it from there. That's excellent. Brian, I think you had something. Okay. Who else? What are some other great open-endeds?
I shadowed and for my first open house this weekend. Same thing as Joel. We're actually down the street from each other. So I kind of just watched my managing broker kind of do his thing, and kind of the biggest one was, are you are you from the Tri-Cities? Do you live around here? Is this your first time? I know these are kind of yes or no questions, but everybody was like, everyone wants to talk about themselves. Gonna be like, yes, I've lived here for 15 plus years, and we haven't moved, and so yeah, that just asking how they like the area, have they lived there long, all of these questions about kind of, because it just shows, it just brings value to them, that strangers care about the process.
Perfect. It's important to, everyone loves to talk about themselves. I don't care if they're shy and retiring and don't normally talk. What subject do we know the most about? Ourselves. Everyone likes to share everything they know about the wonderfulness of themselves. So asking questions that don't require a yes or no answer, but that still draw out the client, are really important. Brian, I think you started to say something before.
They actually already said what I was going to say.
Oh, okay.
Yeah.
Excellent. Okay. Any other ideas that you guys came up with?
We came up with just what brought you in today. because sometimes it's just looky-loos and sometimes people are just out driving and they see your signs, but it starts the conversation. And also Catherine says that she always asks, how did you find out about this? Because in her mind, she needs to know which marketing is working, like how did these people hear about it? But also it gives you clues to how serious of a buyer they might be, or if they're just, like they say, just looking. But I think that's always, my dad always said that that's kind of BS when people say, oh, I'm just looking, because like Morgan and I would never on one weekend with the kids be like, oh, let's just look at open houses. We would never do that unless we were seriously thinking about it, because it's not something we would do.
Right. Well, and literally it is probably 99% of the population would never do it. Every so often you will find the weird outlier who's like, we just like looking at houses. Okay. But as you will find when you're working with clients and they're looking for a house, that consumes their time. All they're thinking about is the next house. Where am I going to be? Whatever. And it takes up so much of their time. And I've actually had clients say to me before, I forgot what I did before I was looking for a house. Like all my free time now is spent thinking about the house and looking for the house and going through the listings you sent me and looking online. What did I do? And I said, well, I don't know what it was, but trust me, you'll get back to it. It will happen again, right? But nobody spends all their time looking at houses unless that's something that's definitely on their radar. So that's a great point, Lexi.
Hey, Rose Horde and I used to always go look at houses just to look at houses, and we were not in the market to buy.
Okay.
Kind of funny that we're both agents now,
Real
but
estate, right. Well, when I remember when I was a kid, my parents would go looking and I would come with them, right? And we were looking. So, but I loved looking at the houses anyway, but I was a kid, so it was different. So, I mean, yes. But
I think we just love houses.
Right. And but again, that's a rare I mean, it's you and it's Rose, but most people don't. But yeah, good point.
And I mean, really a contact is a contact, right? Eventually they might be looking to buy or sell, or they might know somebody who's looking to buy. And how can you connect with them so that they're always seeing your stuff? Like, can you find them on Instagram? Can you say, hey, let's follow each other on Instagram or whatever, so that they're seeing a lot of you? Because just because they're not ready to buy right now doesn't mean that they couldn't potentially be your client in the future.
Mm-hmm. I love, Catherine, that your question is what brought you in today, because that's such a marketer question. My husband always, whenever I get a lead, he's my marketing manager. So he's always like, how'd they find you? And I'm like, you know what? That's not always my first question. So sorry.
I know. And sometimes they don't even really know.
They don't know. Yeah.
Or my dad always says like, oh, when they say, oh, the sign, I saw the sign and that's what brought me in. It could have been the 3 ads that they saw leading up to that really brought them in. And then they just kind of threw out that answer of, oh, the sign, so.
Right. Well, the easy answer now is, oh, I saw you online.
Right.
Okay. How did you see me online? Did you see my ad online? Did you see my Facebook post? Did you see like we don't know. Yeah. Excellent. Those are all good questions. Another idea is not to ask a question, but to instead start with a compliment, completely not open house related, not anything about like, this house is beautiful. You have good taste for coming in to look at it. I like your shoes. I like your blazer. I like your bracelet. I like what you did with your hair there, whatever it is. Make a compliment about the prospect or to the prospect, and immediately they're like, oh, I mean, it has the same effect of asking a question about them because you've just complimented them. And again, what do we all like when it's about us? Okay. Excellent, guys. All right. Let's see. We are supposed to go back to your thing. All right. Okay. Let's talk about the open house. Host, speaker, offer, gift, get the house in showing shape, and go live. Talk to me about those particular elements and what you guys think about each one of them, and if you've done them, etc. Okay. I know, Lexi, you have given things away at opens. If people provide their name and their contact info, you've had like giveaways.
Yeah, my dad's trick was always to, he used to always go to Yolks and get cookies and water, because if you can get those people to sit down and eat a cookie and drink water with you, you can, it just increases your ability to actually do future business with them and just build like that emotional connection. Yeah, I think that's, what was kind of fun that one time is we had David Austin, our favorite lender in town, and his daughter Caitlin do an open house with us, because when you bring more people into your open house like that, it just makes the atmosphere so fun. And then he, as a lender, also provided a gift. And so I provided a gift, he provided a gift, and it was like this big drawing. And I thought that is my favorite way to do an open house, actually, because it's way more fun when you have somebody else in there. It's safer. And then my personality is more reserved, and David's personality is so fun and funny. It was just a great way to do an open house, I thought.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, and that's, in that sense, David was kind of acting like a speaker in the host the speaker category, because different options for speaker were general contractor, home stager. They may draw more of a crowd, especially say you had your stager there in a house that maybe wasn't in the best condition, but with a little bit of dreaming and thought and effort could look like $1 million. You could have your stager there for that. You could have a contractor there as well. And you can always have a lender or an insurance agent or a title and escrow rep, somebody there kind of sitting there with you. And it is helpful when they kind of have a larger than life personality, a la David Austin, who has, he's mostly left though, right? He's not here as much. But anyway, when you have somebody helping out in that way, it's fantastic. Can anybody else think of somebody else that might be at an open that you could have as a speaker or a participant? Okay, awesome.
I want to
Offering a
say,
gift. Oh, yeah.
Cookies are a great idea. One time, my husband and I did donuts with sprinkles, and that was a nightmare. So you really have to think about what you do, because that was horrible and just such a bad idea. But cookies are
I
a
hadn't
much
even
better
thought about
idea.
that. I did donuts with sprinkles and I didn't notice a problem, but that's a good point. We could,
Especially with children.
Yeah, we narrowly avoided a nightmare, I'm sure. That's a great point.
Carrie, didn't you have a mega open house with like a taco truck and stuff?
Yes, exactly. And we'll get to there in a second. That's a different, or that's one of the ideas to have. There is the concept of the mega open house, which is when you make it more of an event or a party as opposed to just your traditional open house. We had a food truck just parked outside on the driveway. And then we had, you had to go through the house, provide your information, and then you got a ticket for the food truck. And so, you know, you couldn't, and everybody at the food truck knew that unless they had the specific ticket, you know, they weren't part of it. Otherwise we could have had a little nightmare situation happening where I'm like, what's my bill? What are you talking about? But we did that. And then also we had a giveaway when we were there too. So if you when you provided your name and information and your contact info, you went through the house, you got your ticket, And then also you were entered to win, I believe it was dinner somewhere, can't remember. Yeah. And we had music. We didn't have live music, but we had music playing through the sound system. And we had, prior to that, as part of that preparation piece, everybody on my team had knocked on doors at the 50 houses surrounding, 50 houses each way. So it was a total of 100 houses, knocked on the door with an invite to the mega open house. So, I mean, we had a ton of people in, we had a ton of contacts that we were then able to enter into our CRM and continue to connect with. And it was a really, really great thing. At this point, I don't think megas are practical, but when they do become practical again, that's absolutely one way of doing it that's fantastic. Another part of that too is you can do kind of, and again, this is pre-COVID, and we'd have to wait till things were a little bit different again, but you can also do kind of 2 mega open houses. You can do one specifically for the neighbors as a goodbye to the people who are moving. And, you know, and that's part of your door knocking piece. Hey, Friday night at 6 p.m., we'll have a cocktail goodbye for your neighbors at 123 Main Street. Bill and Marilyn are moving to Topeka. And so here's your chance to say goodbye to your neighbors of 15 years, blah, blah, blah. And then when they're there, so that's the neighborhood only mega, but then the next day is the general open house. And you can tell people that the entire reason one of the reasons you're inviting the neighbors is not really to say goodbye to the people, but so that they can look around at the house and then go, oh my God, my buddy Joe was just talking about buying a house like this, and Joe's in luck because the next day from 2 to 4 is the general open house for everybody else, or the mega open house for everybody else. So there's a lot of different ways you can get people through and make it not like your traditional open house, but more of a party or an event. And of course that costs money, but then the leads you get as a result, absolutely worth it.
Carrie, I saw a virtual open house a while ago, and it was really kind of fun because they hid Baby Yoda in a couple of the rooms in the house. So you had to watch the entire open house or their tour. And then as soon as you saw the Baby Yoda, you had to like be the first person to see it, and then you got a prize.
Oh, that's awesome.
Yeah.
That's fantastic. I love that. There's lots of great ideas like that. That's fantastic though. So there's that kind of idea. There's the mega open house idea. You can host a speaker, you can offer a gift. And all of those things are around the house and related to the house. Also, they talk about, get the house in showing shape and go live. What are those about, you guys? Do you know? Making sure that the house is in good condition. That's what getting the house in showing shape is. When you get there, all the lights need to be on. There needs to not be crumbs on the crumbs on the countertop. You know, clothes strewn around the bathroom floor. I mean, it needs to be in show ready condition, and it's going to be up to you. And I'm sorry, maybe you're not used to cleaning your house, but you'll need to clean the stranger's house in some cases.
I've realized also that your idea of clean and their idea of clean are completely different. Yeah. And like I have one client where I've sent them, you know, what it looks like to have your house staged. I've sent them over and over documents. And then when I go there and it should be staged, it's still not. So you just can't expect. You have to inspect it and make sure that it's ready to go, and maybe even show them pictures, not just documents. And I think we have to make sure that we know what stage looks like as well. We can't just assume. Like you have to know what a staged home looks like.
Yes.
And know what
That's
clean looks like.
absolutely right. Right. And I mean, and that's what's funny too about like on the purchase and sale agreement, you know, seller cleaning. If you check that box, and then if you say I need it to be clean for this, that, or the other, again, my standards of clean are not as stringent as my husband's standards of clean. Like he will walk into our house and he'll say, "Oh my God, it's a mess," and I'm like, "Everything is in piles. It's fine." But I mean, everybody has a different standard, and so your clean may not be their clean, and you need to allow that extra time to make sure that you get there before the event, before the open, before whatever you do, that it's in the kind of condition that you know it needs to be in to sell it, or to at least make the best impression. Okay. Going live is both. It's both actually, here it is, it's time for our open house, but it's also going live on Facebook or Instagram TV or whatever it is, and doing a video. Hey, I'm at 123 Main Street today until 3 p.m. And that kind of thing absolutely makes it worthwhile. Okay, because then you get more social engagement and et cetera, et cetera. Any questions on any of that, you guys? Okay, awesome. All right, hold on, next one is, okay, now we talk about social media and the 80-20 rule, and what, when I worked at Windermere, was called the BizPer. They were trying to make that a thing. Business personal, BizPer. I was like, that will never be a thing, but thank you, Windermere. 20% of your Instagram feed, your Facebook feed, your TikTok videos, whatever you do should be business related, and 80% should be personal. In the early days of social media, it was actually really funny because people were trying to get their sea legs. They were trying to figure out what was going to work. And there were spam information on Facebook all the time. Like, these are my listings, or this is my open house, or this is this, that, or the other. And it was business, business, business all the time. People did not come to Facebook to find out about listings. They did not come to Facebook to find out about open houses. They came to Facebook to find out about what was going on in their friends' lives. And so it's absolutely okay as a business professional to discuss business on Facebook, but make sure it's not something you're clobbering your agent, or excuse me, clobbering your Facebook friends, your Instagram followers over the head with. Can anybody give me some examples of things that would be considered versus things that would be considered personal?
So I recently had a baby, so something personal for me on my personal Facebook is I just like to spam baby pictures all the time because she's cute and I want everybody to know it. But I also have like a separate, like more business driven social media pages for real estate where it's more focused on that end, or like trying to get leads from that. Posting things about the market, posting things that are like Keller Williams based, just random things like that. The other day I posted something about first responders and trying to like appeal more to that group. So just random stuff like that. But yeah, personal baby pictures.
And that's excellent too, to have the two different forums, right? You can have a business page for sure. And I think the jury is still out on whether that's the most effective use of stuff, or if people really come to social media for social engagement. And then if they pick up business info while they're there, that's one school of thought, that that's the preferred way. But then there's also the school of thought that says, nope, have your business page about business, have your personal page about personal, and never the twain shall meet. So
I have a question.
Lexi, yeah.
I'm sorry. You can.
Go ahead.
So first of all, anybody who is Facebook friends with me on here knows my personal is I have a new puppy, and I hadn't posted anything on Facebook really other than like my wedding photos in years. I did nothing with it. And so I'm like, I can't just be like, hey, all of a sudden I'm on post and be like, I'm an agent now. So I have to do something to like get to that. So people are like, oh, okay. You know, like he's back. All right. Or something like that. But my question is, my Facebook goes back to my college days. And college Doug is a much better, different version than this Doug. So would you recommend, like when you're saying the jury's out, would you recommend editing that? Or is that something that like, no, let them see you. That's who you were, where you've come. I don't know. You know, like I had my in-laws on there and then I went through it and I was like, ooh, nobody's like, let's take a picture of us going to church. It's always like, we're drinking at a bar, let's take pictures. So I had to quickly unfriend my in-laws for that. Like, so,
right. Well, I mean, that's a great actually kind of marker. Like, would you be upset if your in-laws saw this? Like, how would they view this particular thing? Because it's that kind of, you want your clients to think positively of you and you want your in-laws to think positively of you.
yeah. And nobody's got time for that judgment.
What I mean, if every single picture was you partying, then maybe I would consider doing an edit. If it, you know, it's finals week, finally we're done, woohoo, that's fine, I think. But I mean, you're gonna look at it with that in-law lens, and I think you'll be on the right track. Okay. And I mean, it's good though too for people to see how you've grown as an individual.
And that you're a human, you know.
Exactly. Right. And who knows, somebody may go, oh my God, I love that kind of tequila too. Right.
Or like, he's not a robot. He's not just a salesman. This guy has fun too. I don't know.
Exactly. Well, I mean, I think the puppies do a better job of it than showing drinking pictures, but yes. Does that kind of answer your question, Doug?
It helps a lot. Thank you.
Okay. Excellent. Lexi, what were you going to say originally?
So one of my posts on my real estate Facebook page that got the most traction out of everything, out of the professional, out of an occasional family posting, it was our Alabama rental that we have on the market now. The tenants moved out and left a stuffed, like taxidermied squirrel mounted to the wall. And like, it went off the charts. Like, people loved seeing that. And so I think it's kind of funny what you post, what gets a lot of traction, what you don't think is gonna cause, you know, a lot of traction. But another thing that it took me forever to do was that I had my personal Facebook page and then my realtor Facebook page. And I thought I needed to keep it separate because I don't want like random realtors I've never met before to be my friends on Facebook because I show personal photos and it's like, I don't want to friend anybody I haven't actually physically met. So that's been difficult for me. And another thing I wasn't doing was I wasn't asking all of my personal Facebook friends to like my business page because I'm like, I felt weird doing it. But when I met with Erica last month, she was like, okay, how many followers do you have on your business page? And I didn't have that many. And she's like, you need to increase those numbers. And so I sent an invitation to all of my regular Facebook friends to like my business page. And now I like doubled the amount of people that like my business page. So I don't know. Excellent. Those are just real things that I did that seem to be working.
Perfect. Perfect. One thing that is, it's funny, jury's out on this as well, but I heard this years ago and I think it's kind of a good idea. You can have friends who are real estate agents, that's fine, but don't like another real estate agent's page. That seems to be a bit dicey because why are you liking because the like is kind of an endorsement. And so why are you doing that with another agent? What are your guys' thoughts around that?
Wow, I totally I totally added everybody from the previous Ignite class, just
Me
thinking
too.
like, woohoo, let's do it together. And now, well,
Great.
now one hearing Lexi speak, laughing because I'm like, oh, I thought I was being a nice guy, and I added Lexi, and now she's like, oh crap, she never met me in person. And then now I've added everybody.
This counts as meeting you in person.
Okay. No, all jokes aside though, I just added everybody just because personally what I think that we're in the business of paying it forward. And I think everybody, I don't know if everybody sees my post, but I post like what I'm reading, and it's strictly a business page with a little bit of a personal touch to it. Just like, I don't know, supporting local business and reading books and education. And once I have a listing, I'll be, posting that too. But that's basically as far as my personal / business goes. It's pretty intertwined, but I'd say it's really more geared toward business and kind of just maybe getting the attention of, other people that aren't just in real estate as well. And maybe they like stuff that I post, and I put cheesy quotes and pictures and stuff like that too. So
That's awesome. That's awesome. Well, I mean, and again, like I said, the jury is out on to whether anybody even pays attention to what you liked, right? Like, but if I went on and I liked your professional page, and I liked Haley's professional page, and I liked Lexi's professional page, they would be like, aren't you a real estate agent too, Carrie? Or will they just be like, great, Carrie's got relationships with Lexi and Haley and Brian, and that's fantastic, right? Like, I just was kind of just asking for your thoughts around, again, be friends with anyone you want to Facebook wise, but liking a professional page. What were your thoughts?
I have some thoughts on that too, actually. I think I work with my husband, we're solo agents, and we've found it really helpful to like other agents' pages and build those relationships, because it honestly helps our clients a lot. Because when we're putting in offers, we can kind of have a better way of getting the inside scoop for our clients. So I've found it really helpful. Yeah.
Good. That's super helpful. I mean, because like I said, it's been my understanding that the jury is out as to whether that's a good idea or not. So that's very helpful to know. Thank you.
Sometimes I see too, like agents teasing listings that are coming up. So like, I'll see a picture of a beautiful open kitchen with subway tile, and it'll say listing coming up this weekend. So then I'll know in my head, okay, all right, there's one at Summit View that's coming up. Or I think we sometimes find out earlier before things hit the market what's going on.
Okay. All right. Awesome. Thank you, Lexi. Okay. Cool beans, guys. So when you have your social media contacts or the contacts you meet at your open house, or you've been your door knocking or whatever you've been doing, now you have names. Now you have prospects. This is exciting. You have people that you did not know before that you can now add to your database. And that is, my friends, where contacts, sorry. Oh, we did jump to social media. Sorry, I'm going ahead. Let me go and share my screen again. Okay. All right. So now we have our contacts, and you're supposed to take action and develop your plan for contacting them. Hold on. All right. Explains that the average millionaire real estate agent gets most of their business from their top 2 lead sources and 90% of their total business from their top 5 lead sources or less. It is always important to have more than one lead source, because if it all of a sudden suddenly goes away, you will be completely left in a huge bind. For example, if your entire business was open houses last year, COVID came along, and your way of getting business, very, very different, because you couldn't hold them anymore. So it's always good to have, it's kind of like a stool or a chair. You need to have multiple lead sources to remain upright. if open houses was your only way of getting prospects, you're a one-legged stool and then you found yourself flat on the floor because that one lead source was taken away. So, oops, hold on, sorry. Recent survey of the KW research team conducted, the top lead sources for millionaire real estate agents were referrals. Sorry, guys. Referrals, sphere of influence. Hold on, sorry. I apologize. Okay, it's not showing. Referrals, sphere of influence, repeat business, and I can't get this to go down. Oh, yay. Purchase leads and yard stands, continuing with pay-per-click, open houses, other telemarketing and farming. Okay, so we talked about referrals, we talked about open houses, we talked about social media, we talked about door knocking and other prospecting things or methods. Now we've got 80%. It's important to know that you get 80% got 90% of their business from 5 sources or less. So of these things that we've talked about, these prospecting methods that we've talked about, and then referrals, sphere of influence, repeat business, purchase leads, yard signs, how have you gotten your business, or how do you anticipate getting business in the near future? That's a really long lead up to that, and I apologize.
I've gotten it a few different ways. I've gotten family, so that's some business, and then an ad call. So just luck, really, just picking up the phone the right time, and then being on a team, we have access to lead generation. So Boomtown, and then just following up. I do a lot of sphere. I know a lot of people in the area. I just moved back, so it gives me a reason to reach back out to people. So just talking to them and letting myself know. Just using my sphere of influence.
Excellent. Awesome, Joel. What else?
Something that I, since I'm, again, kind of new to Spokane, and I feel like my first year, a big part of my focus is sphere, like Joel said, but like I have to build mine. So I actually find that in the process of building and meeting people, it's helping actually get, kind of just get leads and build a pipeline. And something that I actually plan on doing, which I thought of, I've been reading Shift the last couple of days, and I was thinking about creating a running group on Facebook and kind of using it as a, really just a networking. It's not really going to be, if you're another real estate agent and you want to come, that's great. If whatever, I just want to get people together. And I find that just getting in front of people, and obviously with everything going on, it's harder to do it, not groups and, whatever, sitting, having dinner and talking to people next to you. It's not really happening as much. So I figure, one, I could be doing something that's like giving everybody something, everybody's, we're out going for a run. So we're all doing something, positive together, bringing people together to do something positive. And then I'm sure you're going to have awesome conversations along the way. So kind of something like, go for a run, go have a beer, something like that. So, and I hate running in the winter. So, this idea propped up at the right time. So.
Perfect. That's excellent. That's excellent. Thank you, Brian. Other ideas?
Carrie, I just want to say that I was the stool that only had one leg for 6 years.
Okay.
For 6 years, I just relied on open houses and that new construction. So that's why I'm in this Ignite, and I'm kind of excited because I have to build. I need to find my other 3 legs.
Good for you. Good for you. Well, and I mean, that's what's critical about gaining information from your brokerage, from a coach, from a team member, whatever it is. I mean, if somebody would have looked at your business 2 years ago and said, hey, Lexi, this is all you got, and say something happens, what kind of position are you going to be in? So, I mean, unfortunately, you had to learn like on the job at the moment. And then, but being involved with Keller, being involved with other people, which can say, hey, let's try this, let's do this option, etc. So, excellent. I'm confident that you will find other avenues. Okay. So again, guys, we've learned those 4 basic prospecting methods. There are these other ones about, like I was saying, sphere of influence, repeat business, purchase leads, yard signs, etc. It doesn't mean the sources that you need to implement, or excuse me, you don't need to implement all of these sources, or we're not guaranteeing that these lead generation sources will work for you, right? It's going to vary by person and by how much work and effort you put into it. Your goal is to make your lead generation methods be based on the ones that work for your business and play to your personal strengths. One of the things that we kind of just glossed over, but it was one of the listed options for prospecting, is events. There are people who are huge event planners, like where they get super excited at the concept of having 200, 300 people in a room, and you know, nice little tables and cocktail glasses and flowers and making it a big event, kind of a mega open house sort of situation, whatever it is. That's a lead generation source as well, where you have events and you for your sphere, or for like, again, random open houses, for mega open houses, where you're inviting random people you don't know to have them become part of your sphere of influence. And if that's your strength, if you get excited about planning events, take advantage of it. Like I said, if you're an extrovert and you get excited at the thought of knocking on the door and talking to a complete stranger, play to that strength, right? If you have a huge social media following, then play to that strength as well. Whatever it is that you are finding yourself jiving with and like, yeah, I could keep this up for the long term, then go ahead and go all in on that. Like we were talking about earlier, just really focus on 1 or 2. But that first year in the business, I would suggest you at least try them all to see what works for you and what resonates, because you don't know until you know. Okay. We're supposed to go to page 12 in your guide. I feel like we might be off track here, so I apologize if we're either ahead or behind of where we are supposed to be. Okay, 12 is about social strategy. Okay, talk about social media. Select a social media strategy. You will need to consider the social media platforms you want to post on, a schedule for your posts, your branding, create a social media presence for your business, create a posting schedule, create drafts of the posts you want to schedule. This is all on page 12 of your participants guide that I'm reading from. Seek prospects, determine who you're going to target, location and audience interests, share and service. Going back to what Doug was talking about, Doug, really, you're going to look at everything on social media through the lens of your brand. Is it on brand for you to behave as you behaved in college? Not necessarily at this point, right? So you do want to make sure that your social media presence does reflect who you are and what you're about now. Because everything you do, your brand is who you are and how you present yourself to the world. And so you want that reflected across all channels, in person and on social media. Does that make sense? Does anybody have any examples, either positive or negative, of brand awareness or brands going off brand and how that changed your thought about it, or brands staying on brand and positively influencing you?
Well, yours is always, I mean, the same colors, right? And it's always consistent. So it's easy to spot, easy to know. So yours is super consistent with, I'm going to get it wrong, but it's always meet the agent, right? So, you know,
right,
it's consistent. it's fun, it's the same colors, it's, I know from working in the office that it's, you know, the giveaways. So your brand is just consistent and it's never off or it's just consistent.
Right. Well, it was funny. One time, we do giveaways for our clients, and one time it was a St. Patrick's Day giveaway, and my team colors are yellow and black, and we had, because it was St. Patrick's Day, we changed it up and made it like I think it was green and yellow instead of black and yellow. And so that was just like on our, it's a Carrie McGee team, but it was in a different color with the yellow and the green. And my husband, who I told you guys, marketing manager, flipped his lid. I was all excited because I was like, oh, look, it's pretty. It's spring. This is fine. Oh my God. You would have thought we had, like, I don't even know what we did, but it was a very negative response from our marketing manager who demanded that we change it. And I appreciate that because I was only looking at it from the perspective of, yay, it's spring and I love it. I'm so happy. And he was like, this is off message. This is off brand. Our colors are black and yellow. Our colors are not yellow and green. Switch it now. We have to remain consistent. And so that's absolutely what you have to do. And you need to appoint, either, if it's not going to be you, you need to appoint someone that you're close to who is involved in your daily business to let you know if something is on brand or off brand for you. I've also complained on Facebook before, and then my marketing manager husband says to me, that's not really on brand. You need to change that. So, but it's a good point. So thanks, Karina, for bringing that up. There's, you know, you might think you have a cute little idea, but if it's going away from the picture you're trying to send with your brand, then it's not really worth it.
I also love that anytime I would wear yellow, you'd point it out, or wear your colors, you'd point it out. And that's really a great idea. Like when you're out in public, like let's say you're at Target and you see someone wearing your colors, that you point that out, and then maybe even give them your card.
Oh, that's a great point. Yeah,
it's just super creative that you would point out that I was wearing your colors, but you could also do that out in public as well.
Yeah, absolutely. I could say, hey, would you like to, have you thought about selling or buying or selling real estate? You belong with our team. So perfect. Well, I mean, and think about all the brands we know, right? Like Apple, Coca-Cola, McDonald's, right? They are all consistent all the time. Coca-Cola in the spring doesn't go, or at Christmas time is like, oh, we're red and white, but we could be red and green for this season. No, it's still red and white. So that's what branding is all about. Okay, so your social media needs to reflect consistent branding for you and your business, and then everything that you post on social media should be sure to reflect who you are and your way of doing business. One thing on your page, it talks about service. Communicate with people who interact with your posts, add new contacts to your smart plans to follow up, respond to inquiries in a timely manner, acknowledge reactions, send private follow-up messages, engage with active connections, return the like, ask for business, who do you know? Now, social media, of course, huge way of getting involved and keeping up with people. I can't tell you the number of times that I found out somebody was pregnant, or I found out somebody had passed away, or I found out somebody got married through social media. And if I am even somewhat close to them, I will acknowledge it in some way. If with a message through Messenger, I'll do that. If it requires flowers, I will send flowers. If it requires what to expect now that you're expecting book, I will send that. Whatever you need to do to indicate, hey, you've been seen, you've been heard, then use that. React with the reaction button. Talk about it with Messenger, make a comment, whatever it is. And it's not enough to just go through your social media page, you know, every day and just like, you know, love, angry, haha, whatever it is. You need to interact with them as well. I mean, reacting is one thing, but interacting is another thing. Does that make sense? Awesome. I was laughing because it says send private follow-up message. I have a sister-in-law who lives in North Carolina, and she has a medical exemption and cannot wear a mask. And she has been stuck in her home for a long time because she goes out and people get upset she's not wearing her mask. And she was really excited because thrifting, it was thrifting Sunday yesterday, and she was going to be able to go out and thrift shop at it's this thing in their neighborhood does where you're out and open, and so she didn't have to wear her mask, and she was really excited. Oh my gosh. Somebody commented, you know, you're endangering the community. And then she was like, well, I have my medical exemption and blah, 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 blah. And they went back and forth for like 20 comments, like fighting, right? And somebody said, I really wish you would have taken this to messages or text or a phone call instead of, you know, I just wanted to read about thrifting. I didn't need to know everything about your PTSD, et cetera, right? And I appreciated reading it because I didn't know why she had been exempt. And so now I know more, and so it's good. But I completely understand what this random person was saying about, I wish you would have taken this offline, because it didn't belong on that page. And that is something that we need to remember. I mean, yeah, that guy didn't have to read through all the comments, but he did. And we have to remember, as business owners, we have to be very careful about what kind of comments we get back and forth on our page as well. So for sure, do a private Facebook message. And also keep in mind now with the new NAR restrictions, we can't even on social media joke or make any comment about any of the protected classes. So sometimes it's really easy to just have a, you know, offhand joke about anything that's a protected class thing. And you can potentially be brought up on ethics charges for that now as well. So just make sure that anything that should be private is taken into a private forum. Okay. And also, guys, this is important for Facebook especially. Sometimes people will, you have to get your settings so that if a picture of you, if somebody tags you in a post and it shows up on your timeline, set your settings so that that doesn't happen, that you have to approve everything before it gets on your timeline. Take it off right before your birthday. Otherwise, nobody will know it's your birthday. It's a huge thing for me. I love all the birthday messages. I'm like, yeah, but I don't let anything go on my wall unless I approve it first. And that's super important for us as being out in the public as members of, or as real estate agents. Okay, so make sure to check your settings for that. Any questions on social media, suggestions, thoughts, anything like that? Okay, awesome. So, so we're going to prioritize our lead generation efforts. What efforts work really well for you? Go. Anybody? Doug, where would you say?
Oh, sorry.
Nope, go ahead.
I also have like a fussy baby in the background, so she's just kind of like making noise. One thing that I've done, I have a lot of family in law enforcement. And so what I've done is like send cookies with like business cards to the different agencies. And I've actually like picked up quite a few leads from that, from people I actually wasn't really expecting. Sorry.
Okay.
But yeah, so that's something I've done, is just kind of like reach out and just like send goodies with my business card to places, and that seemed to work pretty well.
Good. That's super helpful. Is anybody on their local PTA or PTO? Okay, because that absolutely is a fantastic way to get in with other families for your schools. And then you can do the same kind of thing that Taylor was talking about. You can go ahead and send cookies to teachers, or, you know, bring whatever it is on Friday lunches, do something special for them. And that's one method. Of course, that's prospecting. Every month you're at a meeting, everybody gets to know you and like you, and then eventually use you for your real estate services. What other methods has anyone seen success with?
Nick and I joined CrossFit. So we're
Excellent.
working on health and our business all at the same time.
Good for you, Ashley. Excellent.
This is a
Excellent.
strange question, but can you use that as a write-off?
The
CrossFit, like joining a gym and being like, hey, well, I mean,
I don't know. I am not a tax professional, so I cannot give tax professional advice. However, I would think that there would be certain aspects of it you might be able to. I'm not sure. That's a good question, Doug. Ashley, are you planning to write it off?
Nick has a meeting with our CPA this week, so I'll let you know, Doug.
Oh, okay. Perfect.
I don't know what would be more torture, CrossFit or PTA.
Yeah. Well, I was fine with the PTA. It was fun for me. But yeah, I got a lot of leads at that time from teachers and from other parents from the school. So it was great. Okay. I think one thing that we do that Karina mentioned kind of obliquely was the giveaways. We use the Perk Your Sphere program, which if you read Perk Your Sphere, was written by a Keller Williams agent out of Tacoma, I believe. It's all about kind of creating a rewards program around your clients and your business. And that has worked out very, very well for us. So that's something that I absolutely recommend if you can get that kind of thing going. But again, like Lexi had tremendous success with open houses. Open houses can be your thing. Door knocking can be your thing. Farming can be your thing. Really, these are just some suggestions, everything that's in your participant guide as things you can do. And so jump in, guys. And one of the ways to do that is go to page 13 in your participants guide. When you are prospecting, take into consideration what comes naturally to you. Chances are, if you focus on your strengths, you will experience more success with lead generation. Consider the following regarding your lead generation. What do you feel your top prospecting strengths are? For example, if you love people and event planning, hosting client events might be perfect for you. If you have a large sphere of influence, leverage it to get referrals. What specific things have contributed to your success in the past? What do you do well? And which of your activities have given you the most appointments? So can anyone give me any example of something like I told you guys, I thought I would be great at open houses and I do not care for them. I do not like them at all. And so Haley, if you ever want to do one of mine, yeah, I will be like, Haley, please. But like, what else have you guys ever done that you're like, yes, this is going to set me up for success in this segment of real estate?
I don't have a super huge, I just moved here from California like a month ago. So I am newbie in Tri-Cities. So I really have to leverage, my small groups for church that I go to. I have to leverage, my grandparents have a huge sphere here because they've lived here for forever. So I really have to kind of find a unique way to grow that sphere. But I mean, for instance, small groups, I tell them I'm in real estate and everything. And a lot of them are younger couples who have just gotten married and everything because it's a young adults group. And they're like, oh, we're actually wanting to buy our first house. We'll definitely keep you in mind. So that kind of opened the door of like, there are certain areas that I really can leverage because of, just the things I'm involved in. So it's worked out pretty well so far. And they're all like, oh my gosh, we're going to keep you in mind. I'm like, okay, sounds good.
Excellent. Excellent. Well, and I think on, I don't know what page it's on for you guys. And it's probably over here. Let me do some more screen sharing. Might be in my PowerPoint. And for whoever asked for this to go bigger, I tried to make it bigger, but then you all disappear and I can't see you. So I'm sorry. On this page, it talks about prioritizing your lead generation efforts. For example, door knocking, sphere calls, agent referrals, a newsletter, a FISBO, an open house, social media, sign calls, website registrations, client parties. So this person received 10 leads from door knocking, 7 leads from Call to Sphere, 2 from agent referrals, 7 from their newsletter, et cetera, et cetera. So then it makes sense to prioritize in order of what's gotten you the most leads. So for this particular person, it was social media and door knocking. So that's really where they've decided to focus their efforts as the top 2. But then these others obviously came into play as well. So where are they going to really focus their time? Because as we established at the very beginning of this, you don't want to do all of them all of the time. You want to get started, try them all at least once, find out where your business is coming from, prioritize that, and then focus on your top 2. Don't ignore the other 3, but really focus 80% of your time on these top 2 places of lead generation, and then 20% of your time on the remaining. That all make sense? Awesome. Okay. Okay. All right. So we're going to develop a prospecting plan. Turn to page 14 in your participants guide. If you don't have a participants guide, then let me explain a little bit of what part or page 14 talks about. There's part A, which is instructions using the list of prospecting methods. List the top 3 methods that you are interested in focusing on. And then part B is your pros and cons for each method for the top 3 methods. And then part C are using a prospecting method that you're interested in using. Use the space below to develop your action plan for implementation. And then what could go wrong, or what actions can I take ahead of time? I'm not sure if you're supposed to do that in a group or if that's just stuff you do later. So hang on one second. Oops. Okay, complete independently. Okay, so all of that is stuff to complete independently within the next couple minutes, or do we do that later? Doesn't say. Okay, so you're supposed to ask for feedback. All right, who has and doesn't have, who does not have their participants guide? Okay. All right.
I don't have one either.
Okay. All right, so just 2 of you. All right. How about, let's do this. Let's go into some rooms, and that way, hopefully the 2 of you won't be in the same room and you'll be able to kind of go over this. Let's one person appoint yourself kind of the director of it, go over page 14, give you guys about 10 minutes to at least all join in together and talk about different options for pages 14 through 16 in your participants guide. Okay, so I'm going to break you out into other rooms, give you 10 minutes this time, and then we will, then I'll bring you all back in. So we'll talk about it a little bit more. Okay. All right. And Kathy also doesn't have one. Okay. All right.
A few moments later.
Hey, everybody. How did that go? Does anybody want to tell me about some of their thoughts or procedure for anything?
Ours was more of a what we have a hard time with, or what we would not want to do and why. So, and some other ways of getting around it, things like that. So, like
excellent.
I talked about door knocking. I'm not a door knocker to be like, hey, I'm in here, because for me, somebody comes to my house and knocks on the door, it makes me mad because my dogs start freaking out. and whatever we're doing is interrupted. But the difference in being like, hey, I'm a realtor and I just wanted to introduce myself, other than like, hey, how about in June or July, we're going to throw a picnic at the park right up the street from us, and everybody in the neighborhood should come down just to get to know each other. We've all been kind of sheltered. So just ways around, kind of similar, but just knocking and being like, hey, just excited. Like one of the scripts they had us do was like, I'm calling you because you're a type of person who could help me grow my business. I'm like, I don't know if I would do that, but what's something I could do close to that, you know?
Absolutely. That's awesome. Thanks, Doug. Any other thoughts around this that any of you came up with that thought, I hadn't considered that, or anything like that? Okay. All right, we are going to jump into the next segment because I promised you guys we'd be done by noon, and that's just about 14 minutes away or 12 minutes away. So we're going to kind of rush through part of this, and my apologies for that. But here we go. If you turn to page 17 in your participant guide, you will see that, or if you don't have it, you won't see. But it's basically some ahas. How has your thinking changed about anything that we discussed today? Doug just gave a great example of what had changed for him. Anybody else have something similar to talk about? Karina, has any of your thoughts changed around anything? Did you have any ahas?
No, it kind of just reaffirms, I know the power of prospecting, and just keep on keeping on doing it.
Perfect. Okay. How about you, Taylor? New mom.
I was realizing that trying to do this with the baby is a little hard. No, I think kind of what Karina just said, just kind of reaffirming like the importance of prospecting. And it was kind of nice. We did a little bit more of a deep dive into the different ways of prospecting. And so I'm kind of thinking more for my personal life, how that's going to apply for me and like what's going to work best for me and my practices. So yeah, that's probably my biggest aha.
I love that. Okay, good. What do you feel? Do you feel any differently about anything? Was anything meaningful today that we learned about or discussed? All right. What actions will you take that maybe are not what you thought at the beginning of the class, but you're like, you know what? I'm going to try it this way.
For me, something that I realized when I was in my breakout group was I used to volunteer at an animal shelter back in California. So I'm like, one of the things on there was for prospecting was volunteering, and I was like, it's a fun way to meet like-minded people and get my name out there. That's something that I'll honestly probably look into later today. So yeah, but and it's just everyone's way, and also trying everything once. That's gonna be something that's gonna be difficult for me, but I understand the value of trying.
Smart. Okay, excellent, good. Anybody else have a definite thought about their next steps going forward?
I definitely feel way more motivated. I shared with my breakout group too to get back to door knocking in my neighborhood. I've lived there forever, so even the people I don't know personally, I know they know my face, I know their face, and now that we're in phase 2, I'll feel like less invadey, just knocking on their door and having, oh, hey, it's Kim, we'll talk to Kim, and just letting them know that I am a realtor because they know me, but they probably still think, oh, Kim still works in healthcare. I want them to know that I'm a realtor.
Perfect. I love that.
And I also just want to apologize for being like half in and half out. I actually have a deal closing today. So I've been talking with title and the other agent and the sellers. And so I've been in and out, and I lost battery. So I've been
I get it. That's all right. Okay. What any thoughts to tools or systems or a model that you're going to use and ways to be held accountable to that?
I'm definitely going to read Perk Your Sphere. I'm super excited now to know the book that you read.
That led to the poor Karina. When Karina was our MCA and she would sit at the front and I would meet my clients and they were always so excited to get whatever they were getting. And she's like, I want to buy a house with you. And I'm like, what? So absolutely though. It's called Perk Your Sphere and you will love it, Karina. It's really great, especially starting where you are from the I wish I would have been doing this from the very beginning. It would be even more successful than it is. So. All right, awesome, guys. Okay, so let me zip over here to our next stuff. That's recapping that we did. Make sure that, all right, I'm going to go really quickly here and go over some screen share stuff. All right. Goals to set your career on fire. 10 contacts added, 10 conversations a day, 10 handwritten notes, and 10 home previews per week. If you do nothing else but these things, you will be incredibly successful. Make sure that every day you add 10 contacts to command. Make sure you have 10 conversations a day with new people, old people, follow up, whatever it is, 10 conversations about real estate or Ford activities, Ford being family, occupation, recreation, and dreams. Anything around them, connecting with them in some way. 10 handwritten notes, and that could be to the dry cleaner, that could be to somebody you met at the open house, that could be whomever it is. Those handwritten notes are gold. And finally, 10 home previews a week. That's a little hard right now because there's not 10 houses that stay on the market long enough for you to preview. But whenever possible, go ahead and start to take a look, especially with new construction. If you have areas that have a lot of new construction, you can go through those houses in the process of being built, or the model at least, talking with the agent from the model, finding out more about what is going to be the final look of that subdivision. Okay. Then finally, scripts, lead generate, uncover motivations, identify objections, close deals, speak in terms the customer understands, build confidence. And we are supposed to role play script practice for 30 minutes, but again, not going to do that. We are subscribing to the registry, you're updating your call list, know the state and federal laws, check before you call, honor consumers' requests. This is for the do not call list. We talked about this at the beginning of it. It is incredibly important that we honor the do not call list. So make sure that all of these things are in play, okay? Any questions about that? Okay. Then we are supposed to do lead generation calling the scripts for 1 hour. So we were supposed to have another hour and a half left, and we don't have that either. And then update contacts and follow up for 30 minutes, contract practice for 30 minutes. This is crazy. That's like tons and tons of time. So either I over talked before, or this is not the right thing. Okay, so create your success list, get everything taken care of in terms of deciding what your next steps are, deciding what lead or what prospecting activities you're going to pursue. Make sure that you, as I said, if you do nothing else but those 10 calls, 10 notes, etc., that's going to lead to tremendous success for you. Any questions regarding prospecting or any of the methods or anything, guys?
I have a question.
Yes, sir.
I ask every instructor, what is your favorite book that you would recommend? Besides Perk Your Sphere, if you have one that you had to pick.
Right.
I already ordered that.
Favorite, right, good. Favorite business book? Hang on one second.
Mm-hmm.
Gosh. Assuming MREA is not an option, because you're, of course, going to read that. Tribe of Mentors.
Tribe of Mentors. Okay.
It is by Tim Ferriss or Timothy
Thank you.
Ferriss. You're welcome. And the reason it's amazing is because it is little things like just a page or two, which you can read every night. And it just is like what that particular leader thinks is important for you to know. It's really, really good.
Awesome.
So,
Thank you.
there's my answer. You're super welcome. Great question, Brian. All right, guys, anything else? Right. I'm sorry, Sherry.
Thank you very much. Appreciate it.
Thanks, Donnie. I can't hear you, Sherry. Maybe, is it me?
Thank
Say
you.
something. Thanks, guys. Sherry, do you want to just, because I can't hear you. Oh,
The other book that you recommended, or who was the author of
Yes.
that one? Was that
of Perk Your Sphere,
yes,
of Perk Your Sphere. That's Liz Johnston.
Liz Johnson?
Johnson. It's Johnston or Johnson.
Okay, thank you.
Thanks, guys. All right. Thanks so much. You're an awesome class. I appreciate it. Mwah.
Thanks again.
Thank you so much. Have a
Be
wonderful day.
successful.
Thank you.
You too. Bye, guys.
Bye.
A few moments later.